to the cloud. Good evening, Sestras. Welcome to Sestra Now's Workshop Wednesday. We have a exciting evening planned for you. I'm looking forward to it. Before I introduce our special guest, one of our Sestras, I just wanted to update everyone. There's a lot of exciting things going on, Sestras, right now. Okay, I know you see a bunch of posts. If you're in our Facebook groups or on any of our social media platforms, you're going to see that there's all of these announcements constantly and a bunch of alliances, right? The Sisterhood Alliance is just adding powerful women and powerful organizations and sisterhoods every day. Today, I met with, I don't know, 3 that, they're on board. And tomorrow I have 4 more meetings. On Friday, I have more. And each of these are just powerhouse women and organizations and resources that are going to be there for you. So if you're a business owner and you haven't been paying attention, you definitely want to start to pay attention to the post, because we have some amazing promotions going on right now. We actually have launched recently 3 business promotion plans. So for 1 year, Sestra Now is going to promote your business globally. And there are 3 plans. There are plans for every women business owner's budget. $99, $199, and $499 gives you all the bells and whistles. So as you know, we recently partnered with UBC TV, the urban broadcasting company. And so Peggy Dotson, the founder, has recently signed a contract with Roku. So now, on top of her other networks that she was signed up for, streaming networks, she's now on Roku, which that alone goes into 120 million households, right? So it's not just that. If you look at the top package, if you have products that you sell, you can have an online store, and also you can be a part of the Sestra Now's shopping experience, similar to QVC. So the online store is similar to Shopify, but there's so much going on. So please pay attention to those posts. So, but without further ado, I want to introduce our guest tonight. And if you have any questions about anything, you can always reach out to me at info@sestranow.com. Myself or our leaders will get back to you. So tonight we have the pleasure of welcoming one of our new Sestras to our Workshop Wednesdays, and she is going to speak. Her name is Pat Weatherspoon, and Weatherspoon-Hall, and she's going to speak on taming the selves during a season of brokenness. Pat is a Christian life coach. Her company is Genesis Rejuvenation Center. We are so happy to have her with us. And so without further ado, Pat, please take it away. I'm excited about hearing your presentation tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. And I am so honored to be here tonight with all of you. Let's see here. Share my screen. Okay, well, I'm Pat Weatherspoon-Hall, and again, I am the founder and owner of Genesis Rejuvenation Center. I am a Christian life coach, a mother, a wife, a grandmother, and some of what you may call all of the things. Like we women do, we do a lot of things. And so, but one of the best things that I can say for myself is that I am a survivor. And so taming the selves during a season of brokenness is actually a part of a 12-week program that I usually present a couple of times a year called Healing from Brokenness. And this is one of the sections that is in that program. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So, so you're probably wondering what the selves are, and we'll get to that soon. Again, I'm the owner and founder of Genesis Rejuvenation Center, but most importantly, I'm a trauma survivor like many of you. And congratulations on taking this very personal and important step in transforming your pain and brokenness in order to expose the healing that you deserve. So pull out a good pair of walking shoes, metaphorically, and get ready for the journey. You're amongst sisterhood here. So if there are any men present, I know there's one there. A lot of my services are geared toward women and women who have been broken through relationships, trauma, and pain. I do always put a disclaimer and confidentiality statement. So this workshop is not intended to replace any medical or therapeutic assistance you are currently receiving or have received previously. Genesis Rejuvenation Center nor any of its representatives are medical professionals or legal advisors. We cannot and will not provide medical diagnosis or advice. We will also not provide any legal advice. This is a safe place, and so we want each of you to feel as comfortable as possible in sharing what you want and need to release here um, in this forum tonight. So I do have a background in counseling and psychology, and so this is one of the reasons why I put this disclaimer here, because I am not working in that part of that now. Okay, the workshop outline. This workshop will consist of the following. My journey. So I'll give a brief overview of that, an introduction, identifying your support system, defining brokenness, identifying the selves. I know that's what we're all waiting for, and beginning the healing journey. Did someone have a question? Thought I heard something. Okay. So my journey, I'll tell you a little bit more about my story. So when I began my story, I was a divorced mother of two very young sons. And so it was a devastating divorce. I had to move quickly. I moved from mom's house to his house to no house with two children. And so I had to figure really fast on my feet on how to not only take care of myself, but also take care of those two children um, who I was raising as well. And during that journey, I struggled a lot. You know how we always wear masks. So I put on a mask and I kept going. I was like what we call the Energizer Bunny. So I knew that not even for myself, but I had to make a home and go through this journey with my children. And so one of those things for me that I did was I joined a single parents ministry at my church. First of all, going through a divorce, it was very embarrassing. I didn't want to tell anyone. And I waited for the last minute to let people know. And they, were shocked that we were getting divorced. And so once I joined that single parent ministry, I learned a lot in that particular group. But one night we were at the meeting and we had finished our meeting and we were in prayer, getting ready to pray out, to go out and leave for the evening. And the next thing I know, they were picking me up off the floor. And what had happened is I hadn't been eating. I hadn't been taking care of myself. I had been, worried about my children, making sure that everything else and everyone else was okay, but I wasn't taking care of myself. And so with that embarrassment, I got up they were picking me up from the floor, and I was trying to get my keys and get ready to find my children and drive home. But that group would not let me do that. They took my keys, they went and got my children, and they drove us home. Someone else drove my car, and they sat with me for a little bit to make sure that I was okay. At that moment, I realized that I needed help. I was no good to my boys if I was not good to myself. And so that began my real journey into self-discovery and healing. And so that's a little bit about my journey. And I know maybe some of you have also been down that road, whether it was through divorce or a long-term relationship, or even family members just leaving toxic relationships. Okay, for introduction, Scripture tells us that God is faithful, who has called you into fellowship with his Son, Jesus Christ our Lord. That's 1 Corinthians 1:9. And I usually use the NIV version. I know there are different versions, but the NIV version is what I usually stick with. And I go cross and different King James as well, just to make sure of the understanding for me. And that may be different for you. What this means is that you were not created to be alone in this journey. God is always with you, even when the ones we trust are not. So I'm going to say that again. God is always with you, even when the ones you trust, the ones we trust, are not. You were called to be, you were created in communion with God, and through Him, a broken vessel can be mended. Mending requires a bit of guidance, a lot of patience, and intentional work. Without work and faith, there cannot be restoration. Now, this workshop is short. It's designed to define brokenness and identify and also define what the selves are so that you are best equipped with tools and a process to move from the state of brokenness to a state of restorative wholeness in God's time and for His purpose. Now, as you begin the healing journey, I encourage you to consider the following. Pray and ask the Holy Spirit to guide you and provide you discernment. Be willing to be vulnerable before God and yourself. Be as honest as you can. Remember, you want to heal and move forward. Contact a friend, family member, a life coach, or someone who will keep you accountable. This is the accountability to yourself for the journey you're about to walk into. So how many of you know that accountability is a must? You know, there are times when you don't want to do things, you have set some goals, and, you know, you may fall back into an old habit, and that goal that you've set has just fallen behind. I do that a lot. That's happened a lot to me. So I see some of you shaking your head, so we can relate. Now, I do put up a warning as well, and this warning is because during this workshop, you might find yourself triggered by something you see or hear. Self-care is very important. I'm also a mental health advocate, and so self-care is a must. Step away for a time if you need to make sure that you are okay and in a safe place or state of mind to continue hearing and viewing this information. So, before we go on, just take a couple of deep breaths. Breathe and allow yourself some grace. So do that with me. You're going to do it once and we're going to do it twice. So just take a deep breath. Okay, and let it out slowly, slowly, slowly. Okay, we're going to do that one more time. Take a deep breath. And exhale slowly. Okay. So that usually calms me down and relaxes me as well. Now, I did mention a system of support. Identifying your support system. This will be a season of openness and vulnerability. So when you identify your support system, when you put them on paper, you want to make sure that those resources are readily available to someone who needs to access them if you are in a crisis. For example, you can put that list on the front of your refrigerator, you can put it on the top of a nightstand or somewhere where you have let that person or those persons know, just in case you are in a crisis. Because even though you're going through the healing journey, it doesn't mean that we don't fall back, right? So you want to make sure that you have a good system around you. And that piece of paper or that tablet should also have telephone numbers of those people that you have identified, people that you trust with your mental your peace, someone that you know that knows your story and are willing to be there for you in your time of need, someone who will listen without judgment, someone who will hold you accountable to yourself, and your mental health team, whether that's your pastor, therapist, or your faith community. So just make sure that you have that somewhere where your people know where that is so that they can contact those people on your behalf. Because you may not be in a state where you can, but that person may be able to on your behalf. Okay. And during this, if anyone has any questions, please come on and ask, and we can go through that as well. Broken people. So broken.
So Pat, so do you want it to be interactive? I'm sorry, I just want to make that
Oh,
clear. Or do you
I'm
want to go
sorry.
through the whole thing and then have questions
Go
at
through
the
the whole
end?
thing and then have questions at the end.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for asking that. So broken people are hurting people whom God uses as a testament for his glory. You do not have to endure a plight of brokenness alone. You get to choose how you want to heal. Healing involves briefly looking back at your past, standing in your present, and seeing your future. So again, you get to decide how you want to heal. And so this is something that you can take control of. No one else can tell you how you can heal. We all heal differently. We may have all crossed some of the same paths, but we all heal differently. You cannot do this alone. Recognize that you need help. Choose to pick up the pieces that were left behind of your brokenness and walk into a new season with boldness. So even though there are pieces left behind, you can still pick up something and continue to build a life for yourself. Okay. You are not designed to remain in a state of brokenness. God uses your brokenness as a part of his ordained purpose for your life. So how many of you know that? Raise of hand. I do. You must become whole again in order to receive his calling. Do not let fear or procrastination keep you from living out your purpose. Fear keeps you chained to your brokenness. Okay. Brokenness is described as a forcible separation, a fracture, or breakage. My sacrifice, O God, is a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart. You, God, will not despise. That's from Psalms 51:17. So when we are broken, we are no longer whole. Experiencing emotional, physical, and mental pain leaves us in a traumatic condition. This can trigger loss of self and lead to an identity crisis. Much of our brokenness can be attributed to many pieces of us, again, that have been left behind at the point where our brokenness occurred. Okay. In order to be made whole again, we must be reconciled with God and with ourselves. To be reconciled means to restore, to settle or resolve, or to be in harmony. Reconciliation allows us to move forward and begin the healing process. So we must be willing and ready to arrive at a place where our inner being can be renewed and strengthened. The Lord is near and dear to the brokenhearted, and he saves the crushed spirit. Psalms 34:18. Now, in the previous slide, you may have noticed that the words sacrifice and reconciliation were highlighted. Both of those are very important in relating to how you deal with your hurt and your pain. In the next few weeks or next few days, I just encourage you to identify the pieces of your life that you need to let go. Because some of us are still holding on to some things. And as I mentioned earlier, you may be triggered by something that will take you back there instantly to that pain and where your brokenness occurred. But having some techniques and tools to get you through that point so that you can get back to the healing, that's where we're talking about today. So I encourage you to identify those pieces in your life that you need to let go of, and the pieces that will be beneficial for your mental wellness and growth as you continue this journey. Now, here's where we get to the selves. So what are the selves in brokenness? How do we respond to brokenness is a key component in the healing journey. Brokenness removes our sense of power and ushers in a loss of control that keeps us in what we are perceived as what I perceive as what the never-ending circle of the selves: self-destruction, self-sabotage, and self-doubt. During my own personal experience with the selves, I experienced continued heartbreak, pain, and additional trauma. This brokenness took over my life, and it manifested itself as mental brokenness, spiritual brokenness, and a broken relationship with God. So again, I'm just going to go over those three: the selves: self-destruction, self-sabotage, and self-doubt. So, self-destruction. There's a quote here from a famous writer: "We are at war with one who wars against self. We are at war with the one who wars against self. So self-destruction is a state of repeatedly doing things that harm yourself physically and mentally. This can happen after a triggering event, initially, internally, or externally. This might manifest itself as self-injury. So if you're seeing yourself cutting yourself, or biting your nails all the time, or doing something that injures yourself. No one is injuring you, you're doing it to yourself. Attempted suicide. I've been there. Compulsive activities. For those who gamble or overeat, I've been there too. Not gambling, but overeating. And then self-neglect. So a lot of times we neglect ourselves. I mentioned earlier my story of passing out at that meeting. I was neglecting myself. I was wearing a mask and I was neglecting myself. And I'm sure many of you have been at that stage as well. Okay. Self-sabotage. Self-sabotage, the emotional root of self-sabotage. Self-abandonment, the emotional root of self-sabotage. And that's by Susan Anderson. She's a psychotherapist. Self-sabotaging behavior refers to intentional action or inaction that undermines a person's progress and prevents them from accomplishing their goals. Self-sabotage occurs when people hinder their own success. So I've been there too, hindering my own success. That might look like procrastination. You know that you have an assignment to turn in, or you have something at work that's due, and you turn it in late. So that's an example of self-procrastination. This might also look like self-coping in a negative way by taking drugs or drinking to feel better. And then lastly, fear of success. And you may say, why would I be afraid of succeeding? Well, many of us are at a point. For example, what if I really do achieve whatever this goal is? Then what? So it's more of a one-up. What's the next thing? Am I going to be able to do the next thing? So fear of success. Self-sabotage and self-doubt are similar yet different. Self-sabotage actively hindering your progress. Self-doubt is the uncertainty. And we're going to talk about self-doubt in a few minutes. Okay, here's a famous quote from William Shakespeare. "Our doubts are traitors and make us lose the good we often might win by fearing to attempt." And that's from a play by William Shakespeare. So self-doubt in a state of uncertainty about the truth of anything about ourselves. It could be about our thoughts, our beliefs, our emotions, opinions, decisions, self-views, or any truth we hold in our minds. Overall, we may feel that we're not stable, and we may question um, our own self-confidence. Okay, and that's from Barslow from Psychology Today. And this was a good statement for self-doubt for me. It was an eye-opener for me, and I hope that you get a little bit out of that too. Now, self-doubt might also look like overachieving because you feel or have been told and now believe that what you bring to the table is not enough. I've been there many times. The person I think of in the Bible is in the book of Exodus is Moses. The Lord called Moses for an assignment, and he didn't think he was good enough for the job, right? How many of us don't think that we're good enough for a certain thing? Someone asked us to do something, and we don't feel like we're adequate enough for that. I've been there too. But for Moses, God said otherwise. And that's what I feel now for myself. God says otherwise. I may not feel adequate, but if my God says I am, then I am. Saying things like, I never do anything right. I'm so stupid. This is questioning your abilities. Or you don't trust yourself or your own decisions. Comparing yourself to others and what and how they do things. So it's a constant comparison from what he does or she does to what I do. Am I better? Are they better? So it's a lot of that going on as well. So living in the selves. Do you see parts of your life stuck in the selves? I still do sometimes. What part of the journey are you on now? So just think about that for a minute. Yes, I see a question or a hand up. Oh, you were answering the question.
No, I'm just saying, yeah, I see myself. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So there's a beginning, the middle, the end, and there's a cycle of rotation. So at the beginning, it's raw, you're right there. In the middle, you're a little bit coming out of it. You've identified what the selves are and what you need to do about it, how to take care of that, how to, stop those behaviors. And then at the end, where you're on your healing journey and you're doing well. But then, like I said earlier, there may be some triggers that put you right back to the place where you were at the beginning. So you're in that constant state of rotation. So even though we're in the healing stage, it doesn't mean that we won't have a point in our life that we won't be sent back to where our brokenness occurred, where our trauma occurred, where we see those selves, right? So as the healing begins, beginning the healing journey is not an easy task. And we've seen that this process can be long, emotional, and draining. Your commitment to moving past the season of hurt and pain propels you to step one step closer to a season of, there's another self-discovery. So self-discovery and your life purpose. So as I began the healing journey and as I developed that 12-week program of healing from brokenness, this is where all of that came out for me, the self-discovery stage. So don't be afraid. Another Bible verse, I'm sorry. Don't be afraid, for I am with you. Don't be discouraged, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will hold you up with my victorious right hand. And that's from Isaiah 41:10. Now, as you continue to begin your healing journey or in your healing journey, start believing in the you who God says you are. 1 John 3:1. See what great love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called children of God, and that is what we are. The reason the world does not see us is that it did not know him. So seeing ourselves as God sees us. Change those limited beliefs. So when we're in self-doubt or self-sabotage, we're thinking of those limiting beliefs that we can't do or we can't overcome. Put a positive spin on that negative. Learn to be okay with not doing all the things so that you can be the best version of yourself. I have a t-shirt that I bought a few years ago, and I was going to wear it today, but I don't have it on. It says, "It's okay not to be okay." And I had to learn that, right? We're always on the go and always wanting to do something and always wanting to make things perfect. But it's okay to be not to be okay. Growth in knowing who you are, who you want to be, and who you are becoming. So it's a growing thing. Healing entails growth. And so knowing where you are right now, where you want to be, and where you want to go. And set goals that are realistic, reachable, and achievable for yourself. Be intentional. So I always have an example of, I'm a list person. So I write down a lot of lists, things that I have to do the next day. I'm thinking about them at night. And if I couldn't get all of those things done in one day on that list, it would just make me upset. And I finally realized that it was okay to move some of those things to another day, scratch off the things that I've been able to do. If I have 10 things on the list and I've been able to check off 4 of those in one day, I'm okay. Tomorrow's another day, right? Finish the work. The next steps in the journey will involve some deep thought, soul searching, vulnerability, and honesty. Do not let fear of the what ifs encapsulate you. You got this. Imagine what your life would look like once you have given yourself permission to heal whatever broke you. Some of us don't think we have permission to do that, but we do. And some of us have to give ourselves permission to do so. So just think about that. Imagine what your life will look like once you have given yourself permission to heal from whatever broke you. Now, let it all out. You may still have things stuck in your head that you're thinking about that happened years ago that you're trying to let go of. And here's where you can get it all out. Write it out, draw it, paint it, however you feel that you can get that out and get it on paper and out of your head. So another part of that 12-week program, I developed what I call the brain dump journal. You can open that. It's full of pages that you can write, paint, however you see fit, that helps you start that healing journey. Start talking about that brokenness, start talking about what happened, start writing it out, or whatever you see. There are artists that draw, there are some that write. I write and draw. So it's up to you. And if you would like a copy of that, I will go ahead. If you email me, I will send that to you. And it's free of charge. There's no cost for that. If you like it, I can go ahead and send you that. And if you're interested in that 12-week program, when that's up, stay connected and we'll get you out that information as well. And here's how you can contact me.
On top of this, Pat, did you create your marketplace profile, Ajad? You are a gold member, so you will be able to find Pat Witherspoon and her
I need,
services on the Sestra Now app, on the marketplace.
I'm going to have to
On
make sure I
top of
put
that,
that up there. Yes, I'm
yes,
sorry. Yes, thank you for
yes,
reminding me that.
she is the Sestra business owner, so you'll be able to access it on our wonderful app.
Yes. Hey, thank you so much. So now,
Shameless plug.
well, thank you for doing that. So now we'll open it for questions or any statements from anyone.
I'll take up 2 hours of your time getting free counseling, so I'll let the other sisters go first. Carmen, why you laughing?
I see you,
We'll be here
Carmen.
all night. You're like, Stephanie, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. You need to get yourself together.
I'm just smiling. I don't have any questions though.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight. So I really appreciate you being here.
Well, early on, I want to thank everyone for joining us, signed on, and this recording will be on our YouTube channel. If you want to take another look at it, you can always revisit it and look at everything in your own time, you know. But early on, I wrote in the chat that 2 comments. This will be challenging for some people. Some women are loners out of necessity. I think you started out, for those that may have missed it, saying it's important to have this support system, right, Pat? Right. And so yeah.
And you know, with some women who are loners, it's the process of identifying, even if it's one person,
yes,
that they can identify with. So that's your support system. If it's one person, you know, to find someone, because we all need we need community. You know, we need someone. And so if that's someone, if you only have one person, that's your person.
Yes, that's why it's so important to have a sisterhood like we have, because the reason I made that statement is, what if what you had to do to get to a healthy space is to disconnect from all of your family, the people that were quote unquote your friends. You know what I mean? You can really find yourself alone, and when you cut off what you discover to be toxic relationships, you can really find yourself alone with like no one. Right. So this is why sisterhoods are important, and counselors like yourself are important. So yeah, I believe, you know, that's a great point. I just want to make the point that sometimes it may not be a family member or your friend, because they could be the ones causing you the trauma.
That's true. That's true. And you know, and let me say this, there's also a time that you need to pull away. There's a healthy time for you to be alone. And then, but just don't stay in that aloneness a long time. You need to come back to the community. You know, sometimes you have to, you know, break away from family, friends, just, you know, again, that's part of self-care. As I stated, I'm a mental health advocate and coach also. So sometimes you have to do that. Spend time with yourself, learn who you are, what you like. When I when I was divorced, I didn't know who I was. I was always someone's child, you know, someone's daughter, someone's wife, and then I left with someone being someone's mother. So I had to take time to realize and figure out what I like, aside from being married to someone or being someone's daughter, or, you know, what food do I like to eat? What, you know, what church service? Yes, what church service?
I'm saying that because I'm trying to find a reaction button to respond, amen and hallelujah, because it is so true how you could spend a half a century or more not even knowing what you really like to eat, where you like to travel to, what you really like. Because you're so busy, we as women especially, we're so busy catering to whoever, our significant other, and then when you have children,
Right.
then when you have a job, like you don't
Right.
have time to be, to even think about what you don't like and what you like, or because it's like you feel like like it doesn't matter.
Right.
Anyone
You're
else want to speak
mhm.
on this? Come on, Sestras.
I have to agree. I have to agree.
Mhm.
For a long time, like, now I'm starting to like realize who I am and what I'm doing for me, and not have
Right.
to worry about my daughter. Everything was always my daughter, and I
Mhm.
forgot about
Mhm.
who I was. Like,
Right.
I forgot
Right.
me, and I was like,
Mhm.
wait a minute. So I went through a depression. I went through all this stuff, and then now
Mhm.
it's like I had to sit down and sit with myself. Like, who am I?
Right.
What
Right.
do I want for me? Forget
Mhm.
about everybody else.
Right.
I need to take care of me, because that neglect, oh, that I was like praising, because I was like, that was me. I
Right.
self-neglected, I overate, I
Mhm.
did, it was just everything. So
Right.
now it's like I'm trying to work on getting back to me,
Right.
who I was, who I am, who is this
Mhm.
person, who I am as an individual, like without children or without, you know,
Right.
just
Right.
being me.
Mhm. Mhm.
And thank God for the circle, like you said, like the circle that I have, my
Right.
mental, my prayer circle, it's
Mhm.
like I have the people in my life that if I'm upset or something, I can turn to and say, look, this is what's going on, and
Right. Right.
help me to stop self-sabotaging and stop
Mhm.
doing all these things that I'm doing to
Mm.
myself,
Right.
because of the fact that I'm just didn't know who I was. Like,
Right. Right.
once my grandmother had passed away, it was like it was me by myself, solo, me and my daughter. So it was just like go, 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 go.
Mhm.
You got to take care of you. It's just you. Ain't nobody
Right.
else gonna help you. So until I just broke down, like just like you
Mhm.
fell, I fell. Like I couldn't
Mhm.
walk. I couldn't like move,
Right.
and I had to go to rehabilitation just so I can walk again. It's just so
Mm.
crazy of the stuff that just happened because of you not taking care of yourself, and you just going,
Right.
going, 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 going,
Mhm.
going.
Mhm.
So now I'm on the way to recover, like
Mhm.
I'm going back and I'm sitting down with myself and figuring out
Mhm.
what it
Mhm.
is that I really want. You
Mm.
know what
Right.
I mean? What
Right.
can I do for me? All my self-care, going back to the gym, doing all the things that
Right.
made me happy
Mhm. Mhm.
and getting me back on track. So
Right.
oh my God, it was like this
And
is it, like everything.
Mhm. And
yeah,
like
and
I
I
said,
want
we
to
can go
add to
ahead.
what she's saying, but like what do you call it? It's probably a term. Well, how I look at it is like when you're constantly um you're just trying to survive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like you don't
Mhm.
have time
Yes.
for self-care,
Right.
oh, let me take some time to, have a me day and a spa day. When you're in
Right.
survival mode,
That's
like
survival
Mm-hmm.
mode.
because on
Yes.
top of everything else that's going on, if you have financial challenges and all of that on
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
top of toxic relationships, but you're just trying to, I gotta eat, I have a roof over
Uh-huh.
my head. And if you have kids, I can't even imagine you sisters that have the children. You're in survival mode. People telling you, "Oh, you
Yes.
got to take time for yourself." What? I
Like,
got to work so
how?
my baby can eat.
Mm-hmm.
So my right, so
Right.
that
Right.
we're
How do
not
you
living
take
in
Right.
our
time for
car.
yourself? I'm like, how?
So I'll give an
So yeah.
example. And yes, I was in survival mode, but I was also in denial mode as well. But I had no time, as many of you have said already. I had no time to think about myself. I had to try to find a place to live, try to figure out how to take care of the, daycare and pay, try to find an apartment and all of those things. But one example was I felt already so bad, and I didn't want that divorce to cause a lot of trauma for my children. So I would go to work and I would immediately leave work and go pick them up and go home and do all the, feed them, do all the things. And one day I left work and I was just so tired. I said, I'm not going to go pick them up because it was work, pick them up, go home. Work, pick them up, go home. And one day I decided I was just going to stop at a park and sit for myself. And I felt so guilty was guilt because I was like, oh my gosh, my children are still at the daycare and I'm such a bad mom. You know, I'm thinking all these things, but I also needed to breathe. It was my moment to breathe. And I took that moment. It was 30 minutes. And then I still feeling guilty though, but I felt better. And I went and picked up my children from daycare and then we went on that next day. But I realized that day I needed to start carving out, even if it was 15 minutes for myself, that I needed to take care of me. Because again, I didn't want to pass out again on that floor and have someone have to drive me home and have my children ask questions. I wanted to make sure that I was taking care of myself and them.
And I think it's important that what y'all are speaking of, that change requires us to encounter uncharted waters, which can be very uncomfortable. Because we can feel guilty, as you said, I'm here spending time with myself and my children are there, but that goes to that important, what you were saying, that we must have that alone time, and not just alone to be alone, but that alone time for God to minister, to renew our mind and to strengthen us so that we can come back and get in the game. So, I do want to encourage us that as we look for change, metamorphosis, Genesis rejuvenation, that it will be uncomfortable because uncharted waters can bring fear, but we must rest in God because we know that He wants to do a change that will sometimes require us to be disconnected from family members and friends.
Thank you for that.
No, Pat,
I always say you have to get uncomfortable to get comfortable. And sometimes people will, give me a strange look. I'm like, sometimes we have to get uncomfortable to get comfortable.
Yes, and I was also reflecting on being alone. And one of the things that I thought about was for us to, I think as women especially, but any of us, to not be afraid to be alone. Because so many times it's this flurry of activities and actions and so many things, staying busy to keep busy so that we don't ever get in touch with self. And I was listening and reflecting, I just wrote down, don't be afraid to be alone. Because being alone is, if we're able to tap into, as you were stating, where did that brokenness begin? And through God's word and those persons that you have in your life, and if you have to have professional help with it, whichever it may be, but where did that brokenness begin? And one thing too is that you mentioned about sabotage. We so often think about, because this is what I thought about so often, is one doing something, but it was like this aha moment is also of not doing something. That self-sabotaging is that inaction or that inactivity. So thank you so much for identifying that. We often think about the procrastination part of it, but self-sabotage is, I should be doing it, but I'm not doing it. But oftentimes, again, we do those things that kind of self-sabotage ourselves. So thank you for allowing me to be able to reflect on that as well.
And you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments?
So deep that I had in the comments earlier that rotation period. I identify with the rotation period because I believe there was a time where I thought I was at the end, or where I was at the end. It's like, whoa, like the big wake up, right? Okay, I get it. I understand what I need to do to get out of this situation. So you do what you need to do. You got it. You believe in God, right? You guide it to that place, but then something happens to trigger you, and then you go back. You may not go all the way back, right, where it's bad, but you find yourself, for me, it could be something just like a week, I just be transparent. Like, so I think it was March, the whole month of March, I did a 30-day liquid fast. It was my way of fasting and just getting closer to God, right? So I did all of that and I cleaned up myself. And to me, it's like, now I'm going to start fresh, eating right, doing right, because it was a cleanse on more than one level. but then something happened, you get back to life, right?
Right.
And
Right.
here you go again, something happens, the stress comes, right? And next thing you know, now all the snacks, the stuff that you cleared that taste out of your mouth, or so you thought, now here you go right back to it. You know what I mean? So it wasn't a diet to lose weight, it was a cleanse to just get that taste out of your mouth. But then it's just life, you know, hits you, and then you go right back to the familiar, not all the way back, right? Not
Right.
I mean, I don't want to start a counseling session where you don't go doing all the craziness, but you'll go those snacks that you know you should not be doing, you make
Right.
but that rotation. So what do you have to say about like that rotation?
Well, you know, you're doing something now, it's talking about it. You're aware of it. And so, like I said, we don't want to beat ourselves up because we're back at that moment. I mean, you may do it for a little bit. As I said, you're going to be down for a little bit at that point because you've backtracked, you've gone backwards. And so, you're going to think about that. You're going to probably beat yourself up about it. But at some point, you're going to need to, get back on track. It's okay. It's just like that list that I said. I used to have like 10, 15 things on the list, and I would really be upset. It would bother me that I couldn't get all 10 things done. But I had to come to a point and be okay with the fact that I only got 3 or 4 of those things on that list done. Because I can always come back and do the others, move it over, um, take that off my plate. That's something that was taken off my plate. And those things may not have to be. But in eating and overeating and stress, different things in life and different times in life, we're going to go through things and we're going to go backwards. But knowing that here I am. Am I going to stay here or am I going to move forward? And that's a decision that.
Yeah. So Pat, I didn't notice that you had on the list, right? I mean, you kept it clean, but to tell you, I want to just say this. There's some people out there or women out there, right? Where they hide, like they say, I'm good, right? And I know because I know people that are like this.
Right.
What they do is they have this front, like they're good, I'm good. But you see and you know where they messed up. By that, I mean, sometimes it's not the eating, the overeating. Sometimes it's just bad relationships, just disrespecting yourself by doing things like in a, we're all adults, like in a sexual way, like you're being promiscuous. At an age that you probably should not be doing that, right? But you're acting like you don't see it, but you someone on the outside is looking at you like you're not good. And they're trying to tell you there's something going on with you and you need to take care of it. You're like, I'm good. So what? I just like sex. You know what I mean? But you're using that. And another way could be where you never want a situation corrected. Like in terms of like you always want some drama, whether it is your kids, whether it is your family, you constantly keep that drama. I mean, you can fix it, you can correct it, or you can get rid of that toxic relationship, or you could deal with your kids or whatever and stop that from happening, but you don't want to. Because if you don't have that to distract you, then you have to look at yourself. So I'm saying this for those women, that are in denial that I'm good, but you're kind of medicating. You understand? And now you're looking at the people that are getting the help and changing their lives like they're weak. But what they are is they are really doing good because they're accepting that they have the issue when you're medicating and pretending.
Right. So they're wearing the mask. Remember that mask?
Yes.
That's the mask. So how you approach that person, they may be in that mask for a while. They're in denial. That's their coping mechanism at the time. And so as someone who's coming and you see something different, you can come to them in a gentle way and say something like, hey, I've noticed that, you're a little bit different. Even, are you okay? But it's up to them in order to reveal in their time of revelation. You know, you can just be that listening ear and friend. You know that you may know that there's something going on, but you want to keep that line of communication open, because if you confront them, they may shut down.
Oh, they do. They
Right.
will. You know, I just
Mm-hmm.
wanted to get your perspective on that.
Right.
I don't know how to handle that situation,
Right.
because they're just going to say, well, I'm good. This is just me. This is what I like to do. Don't tell me there's anything wrong with me. I just like to do this thing. And
Right.
you're just like,
That's that confrontation.
that's not
That's that
healthy.
confrontation. No, but they have to get to a point where they're ready to start that healing journey and take that mask off. We as the person on the outside looking in, we have to make sure that they're still comfortable, that they're in a safe place. So even though you've talked to them about it, you don't want to keep bringing it up. You just want to let them know that you're here. You're here when they're ready. Because if you keep bringing it up to them, I'm going to take myself for example. If you keep confronting me, I'm going to just keep shutting down. It's a shutdown moment for me, and I'm just going to close up. That's not going to help me until I'm ready to reveal and ready to say, yes, I've been doing this or that, or you're right. It has to be up to the person and in their time. Each of us has our own time when we need to do something, when we are in our healing journey. Like I said, we don't all heal at the same time. We may, I can empathize with everyone. We may have been in similar situations, but what worked for you may not work for me.
True. And we're reaching our limit. We're more, over an hour. I just want to read Carol's comment, and then we can wrap this up. And if anyone has any, questions, I'm going to ask, they reach out to you. Your information is on the screen. So Carol says, and we'll close this out, some people are more comfortable wearing the mask. They don't want to change. True.
I was at one point. I was, because it was safer behind the mask. It's safe behind the mask. So I agree with that. That statement is on point.
All right. So Pat, we really appreciate you talking about this necessary subject. And now I understand what the selves are about. And so Pat is a part of our community. And so feel free to reach out to her. And I'm thinking we're going to do something more on the mental health side. After this, I'm thinking that we need to start to maybe do some type of group group therapy with the Sestra. So let's connect with me, Pat, and let's see. We'll do something on a separate date where some women may want to join us, and we can take advantage of your services and talk more in a group. And then you're a Christian counselor, so everyone will join with the understanding that you base your work on and it's Christian based.
It's a faith back, right?
Faith based. So I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. And again, you can find Pat. She's active in our Facebook groups and our social media, but she's also on the marketplace, and her information is on the screen. This recording will be shared to our YouTube channel, where you can find this by tomorrow afternoon. It should be there. And I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. And with that said, we're going to say good night and end out and conclude this week's Workshop Wednesday. I'll see you all next week at 7 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for joining us.